meeting's already received the minutes through the email. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes from the last meeting?
I move the minutes be accepted as printed.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made and seconded to approve the minutes as emailed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we have the proof of publication. Need to have a motion to make that a matter of record.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of making the proof of publication a matter of record signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we have petitions before us this afternoon. The purpose of the meeting to consider and approve or reject Plan Commission Resolution 2015-1, which approves the amendment of the Decatur Redevelopment Commission declaratory resolution by removing various parcels from the Decatur Economic Development Area allocation area. Now, whoever wants to make the presentation?
Okay. Ron, we'll turn it over to Ron Story. Ron is the chairperson of the Decatur Redevelopment Commission. We'll have Ron make the preliminary presentation, and then I will get Matt Eckerly on the phone. And in fact, I may want to go ahead and get Matt on first, and then he can listen in and add anything that he may wish to with regard to what Ron is presenting. So let me... How do I get out on a line, Nate?
You have the number.
Yeah. His office number is right here, 317. Who is he? Matt Eckerly is with Umbaugh Associates. He's our financial consultant for the Redevelopment
The number
Commission.
you have dialed is not in service.
It's 1-317-465-1520.
For those in attendance, all of you, this is the first time we've tried this particular audio arrangement.
Matt?
Yeah.
Can you hear? This is Tim Baker speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are you?
Okay. Well, what we're going to do is Ron Story is going to make a presentation, and you can interject any comments with regard to his presentation or add to it with regard to the resolution that the Plan Commission will consider adopting that would basically find that the amendment as proposed by the Redevelopment Commission with regard to the allocation area is consistent with the comprehensive plan. Okay? So Ron, at this point, we'll let you proceed.
Okay, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, when the Redevelopment Commission established the TIF district, we tried to keep both the TIF district and the Economic Development District pretty much the same size. And at that time, we were told that the residential properties, number one, we wouldn't gain any revenue from residential properties, but it also wouldn't affect us any either. Unfortunately, within the last year or so, the DGFL,
Department of Local Government Finance,
had a change of heart in their policy and determined that any decrease in residential property would affect the TIF district. So what we are doing is eliminating a number of residential areas out of the TIF district. Additionally, we are also eliminating some commercial and industrial areas that had significant decreases in assessed values compared to those of the base year. By doing all of this now, we are hoping to eliminate much of the negative impact that we have experienced to date and could or should capture TIF revenues in 2016. Pretty much what we have in mind.
Okay, Matt, were you able to hear Ron's presentation?
I heard most of it, and Ron did hit the high points. The change in interpretation in state law by the DLGF, apparently they had always interpreted it as Ron described, but they never really enforced it until recently, so that definitely including a lot of residential parcels, such as what the current situation in Decatur is, including all those residential parcels can only hurt the area. There's no benefit to having residential parcels within the area. And then also that there have been some significant appeals that have been settled over the last couple of years that have put some pretty big downward pressure on the TIF area over the last couple of years, to the tune of causing the base assessed value of the TIF area to be about $5.9 million higher than the incremental, or than the net assessed value, which means you would have to get that $5.9 million in new construction, new growth, first before you can even generate any TIF revenues. And by doing this, it should put you more in line to generate some revenues more immediately, specifically from some parcels that have property tax abatements right now, and some impending growth as well, so that you can start capturing revenue and use that to fund some infrastructure projects.
Also, we won't be eliminating all of the residential properties because of having to keep it all connected. We are going to have, by using some streets, we're picking up some residential properties. So we won't be eliminating all of them altogether.
Yeah, and I don't know if you could hear that, Matt, but we're utilizing the primary streets as the connections between different areas of the community. And so by doing that, there are going to be some residences that will remain in the TIF, in the allocation area, but the impact of those residences, if they had any decrease in assessed value, would be somewhat minimal compared to the areas where we experienced that in the past. So.
Yeah, and again, including residential parcels, it's not going to negatively impact any of the overlapping taxing units. They will still get that value as they always have.
Right. So we don't have anybody here that I see other than people that are members of the Redevelopment Commission, the mayor, our Plan Commission staff, myself, and a quorum of the Plan Commission members. So I think it's probably reasonable to say that there isn't any opposition.
Okay.
And so, you know, from the standpoint of you making a trip up here for a council meeting, I don't know that that's necessary, Matt. And if something does come up where we do have opposition, we would need to reach you by phone. If we could do that, would that be okay with you?
Yeah, feel free to give my cell a call. I emailed you that number earlier.
Right. But that way it'll save you a trip up here.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and that'll save you guys some money too. That's fine. Just feel free to give me a call, and then also I do have the public hearing in 2 weeks on my calendar, and I'll plan on attending that unless you guys say otherwise.
I think that's probably going to be where it's more critical for you to be present, because I suspect that's when we'll have people show up that have some
Understood.
comments and objection. And I think then, you know, if you have some figures that you can present in terms of projections of what we might be capturing, that might be helpful too.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions, comments for Matt?
That public hearing on the 7th is at City Council.
First,
Where?
April
That's
1st.
the redevelopment commission.
That's here.
Here, anyway.
Yep.
Any questions from committee members or board members?
Okay, thank you very much, Matt.
All right, no problem. Have a good night.
Yep, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, following the agenda, I'll ask if there's anyone here that wishes to speak in opposition. Seeing none, is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor? Seeing no one arise. The board, do I have any comments from any of the board members?
I think it's been important for us with the TIF that we just haven't been able to capture any funds. So I think a strategic change in that district is going to be something, I mean, it's invaluable. Right now the tool's not been doing what it was intended to do. So without this, we're going to continue to lack funds for redevelopment. So.
Any other comments? Do I hear a motion?
There'd be a motion to introduce Resolution 2015-1, and then, and I can read it because it's fairly short. And then after that's read, then there'd be a motion to adopt it.
Do I have a motion to introduce it? I don't think we had one, did we?
No.
A motion to introduce the resolution.
I so move to introduce the Resolution 2015-1.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Tim will read it and then we'll vote on it, right?
Okay, resolution number 2015-1, resolution of the City of Decatur Plain Commission approving an amendment to a declaratory resolution approved and adopted by the Decatur Redevelopment Commission. Whereas the City of Decatur Plain Commission, the Plain Commission, is the body charged with the duty of developing a general plan of development for the City of Decatur, Indiana, the city, and whereas the City of Decatur Redevelopment Commission, the Redevelopment Commission previously adopted and amended a declaratory resolution, the declaratory resolution establishing the Decatur Economic Development Area, and the Decatur Economic Development Area allocation area, in the city, and approving an economic development plan for the economic development area, the plan. Whereas on February 18, 2015, the Redevelopment Commission approved and adopted a resolution, the 2015 resolution, amending the declaratory resolution to remove various parcels from the allocation area, which is the amendment, and whereas the Redevelopment Commission has submitted the 2015 resolution to the Plain Commission for its approval pursuant to IC 36-7-1416, now therefore be it resolved by the City of Decatur Plain Commission as follows. 1. The 2015 resolution and the amendment to the plan contained therein conform to the plan of development for the city. 2. This Plain Commission hereby approves the 2015 resolution and the amendments to the plan contained therein. This resolution hereby constitutes a written order of the Plain Commission approving the 2015 resolution and the amendment to the plan contained therein pursuant to IC 36-7-1416. 3. The Secretary of this Plain Commission is hereby directed to file a copy of the 2015 resolution with the minutes of this meeting. Duly passed, adopted, and resolved by the City of Decatur Plain Commission the 17th day of March 2015, and it would be signed by the Plain Commission presiding officer and attested by the Secretary.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, and now the next one is to approve the resolution.
Adopt the resolution.
Adopt it, okay. Do we need anything about recommending it to the council, or
The council will act on it. You can recommend that be...
a motion to adopt and recommend?
Yeah.
So to clarify, the Plan Commission is actually adopting what the Redevelopment Commission has already adopted, and that adoption is a recommendation to City Council.
Right.
Thank you.
Yep.
So we need a motion to recommend, or to adopt and recommend to the city council.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made to adopt the resolution and recommend its passage to the city council. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Larry, are you the secretary? Who's the secretary? Or Sharon, are you?
Sharon.
Sharon, okay, so Barb, you're going to sign and Sharon will attest. There's probably 3 or 4 copies there.
I'm just secretary of the redevelopment.
Right,
Okay, moving on, is there any old business that needs to be discussed? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business, the fee schedule survey Roger distributed.
And you know what? Probably ought to make a matter of record the resolution of the redevelopment commission, because this resolution says that you're directed to make it a matter of the minutes.
Okay, so I need a motion to make the resolution a matter of record.
I make a motion to make a matter of record the resolution by the Decatur Redevelopment Commission approving an amendment to the declaratory resolution and economic development plan for the Decatur Economic Development Area.
Thank you.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second it, but I won't reread it.
A motion's been made and seconded to approve or to make a matter of record resolution 2015-1. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, now we've got that all taken care of. Okay, moving on then, fee schedule, Roger, that you distributed, is, make any comments?
We just did that, we just made a comparison, as you can see across the top there, with the county and, City of Auburn, City of Angola, and Columbia City. And, basically just did some comparisons of what we charge, you know, kind of doing this for you guys as a review, see maybe what we want to do with them, and then recommend to council or board of work, see if we can get some of these, updated or leave the same or whatever you want to do with them.
I would like to sort of comment on that. The reason for this has been the review and revisions that are being suggested for the plan and code books of the City of Decatur. It's become apparent that Decatur is significantly undercharging when compared to other municipalities in this area for similar services. One of the challenges that we want to do is make sure that developers understand the process, and we're trying to conform to what the developers in other areas are facing, but we also want the developers to absorb a fair portion of the costs of the processes that they're asking for. We don't want these fees to be a cumbersome or an impediment to development, but they want them to absorb a bit more of the cost of providing the services that the developers request. So this is an ongoing project, and according to my understanding from Mr. Baker, the actual adoption of these fees will be done as a whole with the entire adoption of the code books, but we wanted the Plan Commission to be aware that these recommendations for the changes in the fee structure were being made. Any additional comments? Nate?
Yeah, we've gone through this in some detail. I think it's still in the discussion phase at this point. I think in general, it's the recommendation internally that we do what we can to match the county, where we're either not charging at all or that we are charging, but well below other municipalities. There are a couple of expenses where I think we could optimize that somewhat, and so those are things that we're discussing. There's a couple areas that aren't on this list yet. I think with plan unit development, we'll have to talk about how we want to address those. But those really would fall under either residential or commercial developments as well. We can try to mirror those. But.
Anyone else, any input?
And just to check with Mr. Baker, did I properly represent what was going on?
Yes. My only question is, are you proposing specific recommendations about fee increases or not?
It's my understanding that this was an FYI for Plan Commission and for City Council this evening, and that by the end of the month, which is the target, the fee structure would be included as part of all of the revisions that would then come back before the bodies for final approval.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you guys have any recommendations,
that's what I'm saying. If you have a preference,
so we can present them to council.
Right. Sooner that we can finalize that, the better. So if you're not prepared tonight, at least at your next meeting, you probably ought to try to make some specific recommendations.
Logistically, our next meeting will be after the requested submission date.
Well, and what we could do is, if you have specific recommendations, then we can notify American Legal and have them make those changes before it comes back to us.
Okay.
Correct. Yes. So.
Tim, why is it that we're comparing with 3 other similar-sized towns and also our county?
Why are we comparing it? Just to get an idea of what other communities are charging.
Well, I mean, why would the county be there rather than just compare?
Because what we want to do is try to be somewhat consistent. For example, in Allen County and the City of Fort Wayne have tried to merge their plans to be consistent
okay.
as well as their fee arrangement, so that developers, whether they're working within the city or the county, have a pretty good idea of what to expect, and it's fairly uniform.
Well, I was only thinking on the case if you eliminated the county and looked at the other three cities and took an average, which looks like would be an increase, but it wouldn't be any more than an average of the other towns that you're comparing with.
I mean, that's certainly one way to approach it. I think the thinking was that you want to be somewhat consistent with the county, simply
Okay.
because you don't want to get into a situation where, because the county's charging less than we are, that somebody decides that they're going to locate outside of the city versus within the city.
Yeah.
Well, or if in a situation where a business is along city limits, they would go through the process of developing the project through the county plan commission to avoid fees that they would consider burdensome, and then say, well, now we want to be brought into the city at a later date just to avoid what could be maybe
Yeah.
$1,000 or a few $1,000s in expense.
Which is somewhat logical. I mean, we're part of the county.
Yeah. So
Think of it that way.
that was the thinking. That's not the end all in this. I mean, that's part of the discussion we want to have, is to make that comparison and see how that's reasonable or not.
So anyone have any input at this point that you'd like to make?
Well, if we would look at what the city has as far as fees in the county, there would be some areas that if we matched what the county's doing, we could increase some fees, and we could also decrease some fees.
Right.
And is the county looking at their fees also, or
They just raised them. This
Yeah.
is their new schedule.
this is our...
New schedule, yeah.
Okay.
That's just,
I would like to simplify ours as far as like the way we got residential down, $45 for the first 1,000 square feet, where they're all a specific amount per 100 square feet. Make it consistent with them across the top, which would garner a little bit more money, but not a lot.
I kind of like Jack's idea of taking the three communities and adding them together and making the average.
Well, until he explained that we're trying to equal the county and be equal to them, I don't think it would come out that way then.
The first one would, be almost on that.
Well, like when you go to the residential one, Larry, like when it's $7 per square foot, then Auburn's $6, Angola's 10, Columbia City's 7. All we keep it like an equal increment, instead of adding them together and coming up with some
But that would be-
6.5 or 7.7 or something like that. I'd like to.
Well, that would be a smart way to do it. You could always round to the next dollar.
Right. So.
But most of the county it appears to be higher than any of those other cities on most of it.
Well, I think that reflects the fact that the county has most recently, to our knowledge, reviewed their fees. Some of these fee structures are older, and it would be logical to assume they would be looking at the same type of reviews.
any,
The residential one, I'd recommend $7 per square, $7 a square foot for every 100 square feet. I mean, $7 for every 100 square feet. That would raise ours, $50 or not.
Well, and we want to try to keep the math simple enough that it's not a burden for contractors to come in, and so the calculator,
Exactly.
all right, I got to write a check for $247.18 for this one, and then the next project something else. If they know reasonably what their expenses are going to be when they accept the responsibility for the permitting, then they can easily transfer that onto the owner when they're doing that project. But
So, Mr. Baker, what would the mechanics of this recommendation be, since it's going to be submitted outside of this board?
Well, I think what you can do is, if Roger And it really depends on whether you want Roger to make the proposal to you, or whether you want to come up with these fees as a body. But either way, we can present it to American Legal. American Legal can plug that in, but if we ultimately determine as a body and the council that you want a different rate, ultimately, when you approve the rates that are going to be ultimately included, and if that changes, we can always have American Legal modify that before the final draft is submitted to us for approval.
Well, I guess it's my opinion that I don't want to, as a board, get into the minutia, because I don't have any idea of how much manpower and resources is required to do one versus the other. I would rather review and make sure that it was consistent, and then that it also did not impede development in our city. So I sort of went around the world on that, but I'm thinking that we should rely upon our professional staff.
Let Roger and Sharon
Make the final recommendation.
Anyone have any problem with that?
I don't. I think for us to, early on in this discussion, I was kind of hopeful that we would try to capture some of our expenses and try to account for what our expenses are, but really that's kind of a lofty goal. No matter what we do as a planning commission, the city is going to be investing more money and time in the development than we can even rationally charge to the developers. It's just not something that we can do and still spur development on. But as we have it right now, there's certain fees that are essentially inverted, and so it creates a paperwork burden for us for variances and rezoning that really shouldn't have to be necessary. So I think that this is a good time to make those changes, and since it's current with the counties right now, it's probably as good a time as any with the code changes and the rest to move forward. So
do we need to make a motion to that effect?
Can we do a motion, or can we take it by consensus?
I would just do by consensus that you're going to rely upon Roger and Sharon to come up with the recommendation that will then be submitted to American Legal. In the meantime, at the next regular meeting, that proposal can be reviewed by the Planning Commission, and if you have any tweaking of that, then we can pass that on to American Legal. If you're satisfied with the proposal as submitted, then we don't have to make any changes with American Legal. And then when they submit back to us the final draft of the recodification, then those fees will be incorporated in that, and when it's recodified, those fees are adopted.
Can I take it by consensus that we give Roger the go-ahead to do what he needs to do and then present it to us later?
Agreed.
Yes. Okay.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda then is the Barker's Record Service. Anyone wishing to speak to that area?
Yeah, I will. I was contacted by Doug Runyon, who is an attorney that represents Robinson Record Service out of New Haven. It's my understanding that Robinsons and Barkers have been working together in terms of a transition of Robinson basically taking over and operating a record service out of the Barker facility. It's my understanding that the Barkers would retain ownership and would enter into a lease agreement. I had requested that Mr. Runyon provide me with written verification or confirmation that the facilities would not be used as a salvage yard. It would be an impoundment yard only, and that the vehicles would only be kept there for a minimal period of probably 30 to 60 days before they would be removed. And it's actually a lesser type of use than what I think has been made in the past. There was some question of whether this needed to come before the Planning Commission. And the issue really boils down to, at the time that property was established as a record service, it was before our code was implemented, so this was a use that was grandfathered in. The property is zoned I-1, so any change of use or any change of ownership and a different type of use would then require approval of that use by the BZA. So as a practical matter, because it's an ongoing use, the use hasn't changed, the ownership of the buildings are not changing, and it's going to be used for the same type of use, although somewhat more limited in that it's not going to be used for salvage of vehicles in the back area. I think is what I indicated is with the letter from Mr. Runyon, that would be sufficient. We would make that a matter of record at the BZA meeting, and then in the future, if we have problems where vehicles are being stored there more in a salvage yard type of situation, we would have some recourse to bring them in and confront them on that based on the letter that was provided to us up front.
We've not received a letter yet, or you have received?
No, it's not, that's a letter that I told Mr. Runyon, the BZA does not have a meeting scheduled at this point. I asked him if he could please get that to me before the end of the month, that we wouldn't have a meeting any sooner than the first meeting in April, so we would have it by the next BZA meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Tim, what is the address on that property? Did you read that off?
I have no idea what
Okay.
the address is.
Anything else that needs to be brought up before the group this evening?
I have a question on that, Parker. Is it okay then for them to proceed, or do they have to wait for that BZA?
I told Mr. Runyon that once we received the letter, I would review it. If it was satisfactory, I'd let him know, and then they could proceed to enter into a lease agreement if they wish.
We're waiting on the letter before they can actually do it.
Yes.
Anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. We are adjourned. I thank you all.